So these were the very first sketches I did for Nomads. At the time we didn't have a whole lot, we did have some kind of brief, and it was a dethroned princess, and she was supposed to be one that the player would feel for and want to root for, and then also want to get back on the throne. So that's why I started with this older woman that's like this kind of fairy godmother, if you will, kind of vibe. But of course we did a whole bunch of different other younger women as well. And taking influences from all over Asia, mainly at this point still, with the hairstyles and the headpieces and overall looks. And here we have our very first color scheme, which is this orange and teal, and I mean orange and teal is a classic Stellaris color scheme and just a sci-fi in general. And at this point I was still playing with some ideas about like having this weird globe pet kind of thing, but we never did follow through with that. And as usual, I mean, you never stick with your first idea, so we did a bunch more, still sticking with that down-to-earth sci-fi tribal kind of look. And for these, I think I went a bit more into Africa and the Middle East kind of area for influence, but also bringing in a bunch of other things. I never stick to one influence because you don't want to. This is the Middle East sci-fi, this is the Asian sci-fi. You want to mix and match to get that kind of more original vibe to it. And at one point, because it was just dethroned royalty, it was not set as a young princess, so what if it was a prince? What if it was a prince space orc, which is a legacy character we have? So I went with that. And here you can see me doing one of my go-to techniques, which is I use Clip Studio, so I have outline on my brush, which in Photoshop it's stroke. And what that does, besides the outline, if you're having shading, it will make shading, and if you go at that with a dirty blender, you pretty much get shading for free. It happens on its own. It's a super fast, straightforward technique to get some quick concepts, and I pretty much do it with everything I do. Doesn't matter if it's ships or characters, or I always have outline on. So then after this I started looking into headpieces, and for the headpieces I kind of went, it's like a mix of African influences and South American with Mayan, Aztecian kind of influences, and then a bunch of, you know, make-believe, mix and match kind of stuff. Just seeking out some of this almost retro sci-fi with the looks. And here you're going to see me again using the outline tool for some simple design and details for the helmet there. And then some quick colors on top. Really bright colors for this. I wanted to kind of move away from the dark and muted colors we tend to see in a lot of sci-fi. And eventually we did land on a design, of course, and lo and behold, it was the first sketch that I made. Well, it wasn't the old woman, but it was her outfit and her pose and that vibe. Because, I mean, ultimately the character became the 17-year-old dethroned princess, so there were some changes made there. And here I'm in the outline tool again and just making some quick symmetry mode designs to throw around. These aren't the final designs, but it's just to kind of give it an idea and vibe about what I was going for. And eventually I made something a little bit different, but that was a good placeholder until we got there. One thing I want to point out is I always work in grayscale, pretty much until the very, very end. So I have a finished grayscale character. and then I just toss some colors on there and then you're done. So as you get those values in there, the rest just comes on its own. Now this isn't done yet, so this is just to get like a vibe about should we maybe go with something else in the orange and teal. So I tried a few other color schemes, but I mean ultimately some of these could work, some are a bit too Jedi, but we went back to orange and teal because that was the best choice. And then from there it's just heading towards the goal. More values, more highlights, more shadows, piece by piece, step by step. And at some point, for like 2 seconds, tried a different kind of pose, but it didn't really work. I did, however, have to change her helmet because the one that we had, it would have caused a big shadow on her face. So, but I mean, happy accident because this one turned out even better. So for there, it was just a bunch of rendering. Painting in materials and textures, silk materials, metallic materials, leather surfaces, imperfections, adding skin with some subsurface scattering, all that good stuff. And that's the Dethroned Princess in a nutshell.